and welcome everyone to the SIVO Insights Forum. Today's discussion topic is Bridging the Gap, Translating Insights into Meaningful Business Impact. Now, we all know that establishing credibility is key to influencing business decisions. How have you built trust and credibility with senior leaders in your organization?
The one thing I would add, Natasha, is that, in the retail space in particular, you have a ton of stakeholders per every insights person, right? So your need for credibility has to be really massive just because of the number of stakeholders that you need to influence. And so one way I found that works to do that is to build advocates and to have some stakeholders become advocates for using insights. If you have a case study or an early win, if you can get a senior leader to say, yes, and I did that and I won that, or I got this because of the insights, it really spreads your credibility really quickly and in a very strong and powerful way.
Love that. Yes.
I think there's a component too on, and maybe this is more of a leadership in general, leadership perspective. It's like you have to build genuine relationships with the key stakeholders that you're working with, right? And genuine relationships means being vulnerable, challenging each other, having honest conversations, right? Being also supportive and helpful when we need to, because again, I think the insights can show something and then the business makes a decision, and we all should be aligned around that decision, even knowing there's going to be some risks around it. And so I do think I don't want to underestimate that, and you have to invest in building those relationships, right? Mm-hmm. And it's many times building the relationships as like it's showing the work that you can bring, showing the value that you can bring, but sometimes it's just really having conversations and listening and understanding what's on their mind, what worries them, and then trying to connect the work that you're doing with that, right? So, and I guess that's leadership, and you could see that in any functional hat that you have. And I do think it's important that I always say that a way that you think about, like when I see something that is really a great story or great insights deliverable, and I share this with you, Natasha, but there's a framing that I use that it's always like, okay, if we hit these three things, I think this is going to be good. Mm-hmm. And the first one is context. And context is about acknowledging what are the things that matter around the topic, the issue, the question that you are looking at. And knowing and showing that you understand that context is really important. Then it's bringing clarity. And this is really where you show your results, I guess, or you show the insights that you discover. But clarity needs to be brief and straightforward. And sometimes we just wind up too much what we want to say. So the clarity needs to come in a cohesive story, right? And sometimes that story requires you to take a lot of things out that you think were very relevant to bring to the table. And the third thing is, for me, conviction. And that's where the evidence, Khary, that you're talking about comes in. You have to bring some evidence to build that conviction that what you're saying is actually truthful and what you need to do, right? So if you hit those sort of like three ways in every piece of work that you're delivering as an insights professional, you're going to build the credibility because your work is going to have the impact. So, and it's a simple framing that I use always to say, do we have these three components? But again, I do believe relationships go a long way on building credibility as well.
I love it, Eliana.
I love the relationship piece of that. And they can be small things too. It can be sometimes you're reading something and you know this is an interest of that person from a business standpoint. It might be personal, but send the article. Like, hey, I thought about you when I read this. It's 10 minutes, but there's a part here and I'll highlight and said, might be something to think about. Here's how I'm thinking about it. Right? Yeah. Those small things that helps them understand you're not just looking to build a stakeholder relationship in the moment of delivering a piece of work or in a weekly meeting. It's actually outside. This person is still thinking about the interests of my part of the business or my remit. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I can depend on this person to share their perspective in the meeting, outside of the meeting, and it can be consistent. So it goes back to that relationship building Eliana was mentioning.